To the NDIS. Now, given the changes that you announced yesterday, and you just mentioned some of them just then briefly, but will the overall cost of the scheme now reduce or increase?
Now, the scheme will still be supporting people. It's not about cutting, but I do think that what we can do is make sure that every dollar in the scheme gets through to the people for whom it was designed. And I think when we do that, that will actually help deflate some of the inflationary cost growth. I want to say, though, through you to people on the scheme and to their families and to people who support people with disability in this country, the NDIS is here to stay. We helped create it. It has had, though, a fair bit of neglect in the last 9 years. In terms of its increasing costs, that's not all going to be sorted out tomorrow. What we need to do is make sure that when people on the scheme are dealing with the government, that they get humane, empathetic treatment by people who understand disability. I think if we move to longer term decision making, that'll help. What I mean by that is, did you know, Pete, that most people on the scheme every year have to go through their package again and check again? That's pretty expensive. It's pretty stupid as well, because when you've got a permanent disability, if you're blind, you can't see and your sight isn't returned, or if you're in a wheelchair. So longer term planning will take out some of the inhumane bureaucracy. We do want to clamp down on unethical conduct. By that I mean everything from crooks who are scamming the scheme to some providers overcharging or over-servicing participants. We also need to tackle the system beyond the NDIS. The NDIS in itself can't deliver independence for people with disability. We've got to make sure that the school system's working, that the mental health system's working, that kids who might have a developmental delay in their very early years are getting support early enough that they don't need to be on the scheme for a long time.
You're looking at costs exceeding $50 billion by 2026, though. I mean, that is a huge weight on the budget. It sounds to me from your explanation just then that there will not be any cuts coming up in this budget.
Well, it's not as simple as saying you just cut something. The point about it is, well, there's a couple of points there. Let's be really straight. Sometimes journalists go to the headline cost of the program in isolation. If the scheme wasn't there, the cost wouldn't disappear miraculously. You'd just have a crisis-ridden scheme. It's not an exaggeration to say that before the NDIS, it was a catastrophe system where you had to be in worse trouble tomorrow than today to get funding. And if you're in a crisis by next week under the old scheme, that's when you'd finally get funding. So the other thing is that it is making a life-changing difference for a lot of people. But do I think that we can help make the scheme spend smarter rather than spend more? Yes. But this isn't about just saying to people in wheelchairs or people with white canes or kids with developmental delays that we're walking away. We're not. The scheme's here to stay, but I do think it can be run better. And I know that people with disabilities in the broader community, by and large, agree with me on that. We want to get the overcharges out. We want to get the bureaucratic stupidities out of the system. We want to step up and make sure that, for instance, when people with severe needs have housing, that housing service is the right service for them and it's not the wrong service.
Okay. Bill Shorten, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.